Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, the International Climate Advisor to the President of Sri Lanka, and the guest speaker today to light the traditional oil lamp. நினைவு பேருரையை வழங்க வந்துள்ள மாண்புமிகு எரிக் சொல்ஹெய்ம் அவர்களை குத்துவிளக்கேற்றுமாறு அன்போடு கேட்டு நிற்கின்றோம். With all reverence and respect, may I call upon Most Reverend Dr. Noel Emmanuel, the Bishop of Trincomalee and the President of North East Bishops' Council. திருவோணமலை மறை மாவட்ட ஆயரும் வடக்கு கிழக்கு ஆயர் பேரவையினுடைய தலைவருமாகிய ஆயர் நோயல் இம்மானுவேல் ஆண்டனி அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்திருக்கின்றோம். Let me respectfully invite the Vicars General of Matha and Jaffna Dioceses, Very Reverend Father P. Kristunayagam and Very Reverend Father Joseph Das Jabarnam. உயர் வணக்கத்துக்குரிய மன்னார் மற்றும் யாழ் மறை மாவட்ட பொறுப்புதல்வர்களை குத்துவிளக்கேற்றுமாறு அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். With much respect, may I call upon the government agent and the district secretary of Mannar district. மதிப்புக்குரிய அரசாங்க அதிபர் ஸ்டான்லி டிவல் அவர்களை குத்துவிளக்கேற்றுமாறு அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். On behalf of the judges, may I kindly invite Honorable Mr. Prabhakaran, the district judge of Vavuniya. கண்ணியத்துக்குரிய நீதிபதி பிரபாகரன் அவர்களை அன்போடு குத்துவிளக்கேற்ற அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். On behalf of the parliamentarians, may I call upon Honorable Mr. Selvam Adaiyalanathan to light the traditional oil lamp. கௌரவ பாராளுமன்ற உறுப்பினர் செல்வம் அடைக்கலான் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். On behalf of the security forces, the brigade commander of 54 Division Mannar, பாதுகாப்பு படையினர் சார்பாக 54ஆம் பிரிவு கட்டளையிடும் தளபதி அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். On behalf of the police sector, we kindly invite the SSP of Mannar to light the traditional oil lamp. போலீஸ் பிரிவு சார்பாக போலீஸ் அத்தியட்சர் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். On behalf of the family members of our late bishop, may I call Reverend Sister Anusala, niece of our bishop, to light the traditional lamp. குடும்ப உறுப்பினர்கள் சார்பாக ஆயரின் மருமகள் அருள் சகோதரி அனுசலா அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். We kindly invite the Islamic religious leader to light the traditional oil lamp. இஸ்லாமிய மதகுரு அவர்களை குத்துவிளக்கை ஏற்றுமாறு அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். இறைமக்கள் சார்பாக மன்னார் பேராலய பங்கு பிரதிநிதி அவர்களை குத்துவிளக்கை ஏற்றுமாறு அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். Now we will have the prayer session. இப்பொழுது செப வழிபாடு.
புனித மத்தேயு எழுதிய நற்செய்தியிலிருந்து வாசகம். அதிகாரம் 6, இறைவார்த்தைகள் 1-12 ஈராக. இயேசு மக்கள் கூட்டத்தை கண்டு மலை மீது ஏறி அமர அவருடைய சீடர் அவர் அருகே வந்தனர். அவர் திருவாய் மலர்ந்து கற்பித்தவை: ஏழையரில் உள்ளத்தோர் பேர் பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் விண்ணரசு அவர்களுக்கு உரியது. துயருவோர் பேர் பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் அவர்கள் ஆறுதல் பெறுவர். கனிவுடையோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் அவர்கள் நாட்டை உரிமை சொத்தாக்கிக் கொள்வர். நீதி நிலைநாட்டும் வேட்கை கொண்டோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் அவர்கள் நிறைவு பெறுவர். இரக்கமுடையோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் அவர்கள் இரக்கம் பெறுவர். தூய்மையான உள்ளத்தோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் அவர்கள் கடவுளை காண்பர். அமைதி ஏற்படுத்துவோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் கடவுளின் மக்கள் என அழைக்கப்படுவர். நீதியின் பொருட்டு துன்புறுத்தப்படுவோர் பேறு பெற்றோர், ஏனெனில் விண்ணரசு அவர்களுக்கு உரியது. என் பொருட்டு மக்கள் உங்களை இகழ்ந்து துன்புறுத்தி உங்களை பற்றி இல்லாதவை பொல்லாதவையெல்லாம் சொல்லும்போது நீங்கள் பேறு பெற்றவர்களே. மகிழ்ந்து பேறு வகை கொள்ளுங்கள், ஏனெனில் விண்ணுலகில் உங்களுக்கு கிடைக்கும் கைமாறு மிகுதியாகும். இது ஆண்டவர் வழங்கும் அருள்வாக்கு.
இறைவனுக்கு நன்றி.
எங்கள் இறைவனாகிய ஆண்டவரே, கேடயம், ஈட்டி ஆகியவற்றிலிருந்து கிடைக்கும் பாதுகாப்பை விட உமது சொல் என்னும் படைக்கலத்தை அவர்கள் ஒவ்வொருவருக்கும் அணிவித்தார். 2 மக்கபே 15:15 சொல்லப்பட்டதுக்கு அமைவாக சவால்களும் வேதனைகளும் அடிமைத்தனமும் அநீதியும் பொய்மையும் வன்முறையும் உரிமை மறுப்புகளும் நிறைந்த மக்களின் வாழ்வு சிதைக்கப்பட்ட போது இயேசு ஆண்டவரின் போதனையை தனது பணியாலும் வாழ்விலும் பிற்புலமாக கொண்டு மக்களின் ஆயனாக, மக்களுக்கான ஆயனாக, உறுதியூட்டும் ஆயனாக, நம்பிக்கை தரும் ஆயனாக, இரக்கம் நிறைந்த ஆயனாக, நீதியின் பால் பசிதாகம் கொண்ட ஆயனாக பணியாற்ற நீர் எமக்கு கொடுத்த காலம் சென்ற ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டகைக்காக உமக்கு நன்றி சொல்லுகின்றோம் அப்பா. அவர் வழியாக பல நொந்த உள்ளங்களின் கண்ணீரை துடைத்தீரே, நீதியை பெற்றுக் கொடுத்தீரே, உரிமை வாழ்வுக்கான உறுதியினை ஓங்கி ஒழிக்கச் செய்தீரே. காலம் சென்ற ஆயர் தந்தை ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டகை அவர்களின் நினைவு நிகழ்விலே கூடியிருக்கும் எம் ஒவ்வொருவரிடமும் நீதி, உண்மை, இரக்கம், அன்பு, மன்னிப்பு, அமைதி ஆகியவற்றை சிறப்பான முறையில் முன்னெடுத்துச் சென்று சமத்துவ, சகோதரத்துவ, அமைதி நிறை சமூகம் உருவாக உழைக்கும் நிறைவான உள்ளம் கொண்ட மனிதர்களை எம்மகத்திலே உருவாக்கியருளும் தகப்பனே. இன்றைய நிகழ்வை சிறப்பான முறையிலே நடாத்தி செல்வதற்காக உமது அருளையும் ஆசிரையும் நிறைவாக எங்கள் ஒவ்வொருவர் மேலும் பொழிந்தருள வேண்டும் என்றும் உம்மை இறந்து மன்றாடுவதோடு இவை அனைத்தையும் எங்கள் ஆண்டவராகிய இயேசு கிறிஸ்து வழியாக உம்மிடம் இறந்து மன்றாடுகின்றோம். ஆமேன், ஆமேன், ஆமேன்.
எங்கள் அன்றாட உணவை இன்று எங்களுக்கு தாரும். எங்களுக்கு எதிராக குற்றம் செய்வோரை நாங்கள் மன்னிப்பது போல எங்கள் குற்றங்களை மன்னியும். எங்களை சோதனைக்கு உட்படுத்தாதையும் தீமையிலிருந்து எங்களை விடுவித்தருளும்.
தந்தை, மகன், தூய ஆவியின் பெயராலே
ஆமென்.
ப்ளீஸ் பி சீட்டட். தயவு செய்து அமர்ந்திருங்கள். Today we commemorate the second death anniversary of Most Reverend Dr. Rayappu Joseph, who was the former Bishop of Mena. As a chief shepherd of the Diocese of Mena for nearly 23 years, His Lordship involved himself in the struggle of the Tamil nation. He was the champion of peace and ardent disciple of Christ by alleviating the suffering of the masses. He also joined hands with the international communities, especially with our guest speaker today, His Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, in finding a lasting solution for our ethnic crisis. இன்று நாம் நமது மறைமாவட்ட முன்னாள் ஆயர் மேதகு ராயப்பு யோசேப்பு ஆண்டகை அவர்களின் இறப்பின் 2வது வருட நிறைவை நினைவு கூறுகின்றோம். 23 ஆண்டுகள் நம் ஆயராகவும் கிறிஸ்துவின் சீடராகவும் சமாதான தூதுவராகவும் விளங்கிய எமது முன்னாள் ஆயர் தமிழ் மக்களின் துன்பங்களிலே தன்னை இணைத்து கொண்டவர். Now may I call upon His Lordship Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, the Bishop of Mena, to garland the portrait of late Bishop Rayappu Joseph. முன்னாள் ஆயரின் திருவுருவ படத்திற்கு மலர் மாலை அணிவித்து அஞ்சலிக்குமாறு ஆயர் தந்தை இமானுவேல் பெர்னாண்டோ ஆண்டகை அவர்களை பணிவோடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். அனைவரும் எழுந்து நிற்போம். Let us all stand. We kindly invite Mr. Thomas, the brother of our late bishop, to light the lamp to the portrait of our bishop. ஆயரின் திருவுருவ படத்திற்கு ஒளியேற்றி அஞ்சலிக்குமாறு மறைந்த ஆயரின் சகோதரர் தோமஸ் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம். Let us all observe 1 minute silence for the repose of the soul of our late bishop. அனைவரும் ஒரு நிமிடம் மறைந்த ஆயரின் ஆன்ம சாந்திக்காக மன்றாடுவோம். Thank you. Please be seated. தயவு செய்து அமர்ந்திருங்கள்.
Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, the Bishop of Mena, His Excellency Mr. Eric Solheim, International Climate Advisor to the President of Sri Lanka, and the guest speaker today, Most Reverend Dr. Noel Emmanuel, the President of Northeast Bishops' Council and the Bishop of Trincomalee, Honorable Stanley Dimmel, the government agent of Mana, honored judges, honorable parliamentarians, Very Reverend Father Jebaretnam, the Vicar General of Jaffna Diocese, Reverend Provincials of various congregations, Reverend Fathers, Brothers, Sisters, distinguished guests, Parish Council Secretaries, and all the invitees. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. Today, we are all gathered in this auditorium to commemorate the second death anniversary of a person who registered his name in the hearts of so many thousands of people. That person is none other than the late Bishop Rayappu Joseph, the former Bishop of Mana. Bishop Rayappu Joseph was ordained as priest in 1966 for the Diocese of Jaffna and became the Bishop of Mana in 1992. He was a committed priest, and as a parish priest, he was very successful in his parish ministries, and especially he visited all his parish families, identified the poor, marginalized, and helped them in various ways. When he became the Bishop of Mana, he committed himself totally for the liberation of people from all forms of bondages. First of all, I would like to say that as the Bishop of Mana, he created a history when he worked hard to bring the present Holy Father Pope Francis to Madhu Shrine. That was a milestone in the history of the Mana Diocese. He was a bishop who loved the needy and helped them as a good Samaritan. He became voice of the voiceless and father of fatherless. He became patron of vulnerable and the handicapped. Bishop Rayappu Joseph was very much interested in educating children, especially the poor and orphan. He started orphanages in Mana Diocese and monthly supported a number of students to continue their studies, including many university students. Still, we are continuing what was begun by him by supporting the students. At the same time, we are planning to launch a new education fund in the name of Bishop Rayappu Joseph Education Fund on the proper day of his second death anniversary, falls on the 1st of April. I would like to quote here. He follows the spirituality of John the Baptist with great courage to face all the challenges for the sake of truth and justice, speaking out for those without a voice, with his non-violent approaches in all the circumstances. He is passionate to respond to the needs of the people's cry. Unquote. From A Living Hero by Father Vincent Patrick, page number 6. Once speaking via Skype at a side event at the 14th session of the Universal Periodic Review in Geneva, Bishop Rayappu Joseph told the audience as follows. Our solution does not lie in the 13th Amendment, but on the Tamil nationhood to be recognized. We are not mere minority. We are a nation. From the beginning of history, there had been two nations that must be recognized. This was his cry till the last minute. We planned last year to have a memorial talk every year to remember his commitment towards justice, peace, and freedom of life. When we thought about this year memorial talk, there were a number of names proposed, but finally, the name of Honorable Erik Solheim came through Mr. Joseph Maria Ambillai, the senior advisor and senior leadership fellow at Faculty of Social Sciences, Chiang Mai University, Thailand, who is here with us today. As he was well aware of late Bishop rayappu Joseph's contribution and coordination with Honorable Erik Solheim in the Tamils struggle. Thus, finally, His Lordship decided to invite a suitable elite for this historical event. Honorable Erik Solheim, an international climate advisor to the President of Sri Lanka, former Minister of International Development and the Environment of Norway, member of the Tamil Nadu Governing Council on Climate Change, and more than that, he was the mediator between the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE for many years to bring about a solution for the ethnic problem. In this regard, he met Bishop rayappu Joseph number of times, and I came to know that the first time he met the bishop in Madhu shrine. Thus, I am sure it is a tribute to late Bishop rayappu Joseph to listen to his tireless work towards peace through the one who associated with him to achieve that goal. Finally, I am pretty sure all who are gathered here will benefit from today's programs that will enhance us to continue the mission begun by late Bishop rayappu Joseph towards peace and justice. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Now, let us give a cultural twist to this event. I would like to call on stage the students of St. Xavier's Girls College National School to present a welcome dance. வரவேற்பு நடனத்தை வழங்க வருமாறு மன்னார் புனித சவேனியார் பெண்கள் தேசிய பாடசாலை மாணவிகளை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
நிலமானவா விண்ணானவா காற்றானவா இறைவா ஒளியானவா நீர்தானே உயிர்க்கெல்லாம் முதலானவன் நீர்தானே உயிர்க்கெல்லாம் முதலானவன் நான் தேடும் உலகெல்லாம் உறவானவன் ஜெகம் கூடி ஜதி பாடும் இசையானவன் ஜெகம் கூடி ஜதி பாடும் இசையானவன் என்னை நாடும் தொடர்கின்ற நிழலானவன் என்னை நாடும் தொடர்கின்ற நிழலானவன் நீர்தானே உயிர்க்கெல்லாம் முதலானவன் இறைவா இறைவா நதியில் நீராகி நிலவெல்லாம் ஒளியாகி பனியில் துளியாகும் இறையானவா நதியில் நீராகி நிலவெல்லாம் ஒளியாகி பனியில் துளியாகும் இறையானவா புவியில் திறனாகி உயிரெல்லாம் கருவாகி காற்றில் அசைந்தாடும் நிறைவானவா புவியில் திறனாகி உயிரெல்லாம் கருவாகி காற்றில் அசைந்தாடும் நிறைவானவா ஸ்வரம் தேடியே உனை பாடினே நீதம் கூடியே மகிழ்ந்தாடினே சலங்கை ஒலியாக சதிராடும் மயிலாக ஜதியில் ஒயிலாக நடமாடினே சலங்கை ஒலியாக சதிராடும் மயிலாக ஜதியில் ஒயிலாக நடமாடினே சபையில் இனிதாக இடம் தேடும் முகமாக இதயம் கலந்தோரை புகழ்ந்தாடினேன் சபையில் இனிதாக இடம் தேடும் முகமாக இதயம் கலந்தோரை புகழ்ந்தாடினேன் ரதபப்ப சசனி நின்னி ரதபப்ப ரீதபா சசனி நின்னி ரிரி சச சச சரி காமரி கசா நீர்தானே உயிர்க்கெல்லாம் முதலானவன் நான் தேடும் உலகெல்லாம் உறவானவன் ஜெகம் கூடி ஜதி பாடும் இசையானவன் ஜெகம் கூடி ஜதி பாடும் இசையானவன் என்னை நாடும் தொடர்கின்ற நிழலானவன் என்னை நாடும் தொடர்கின்ற நிழலானவன் நீர்தானே உயிர்க்கெல்லாம் முதலானவன் இறைவா
Reverend Father A. Victor Sosai, who had served as the Vicar General for 9 years, அருட்பணி விக்டர் சோசை அடிகளார் அவர்களை வரவேற்புரையை வழங்க வருமாறு அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, the Bishop of Mana, Most Reverend Dr. Noel Emmanuel, the Bishop of Trincomalee, our chief guest today, Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, Honorable Government Agent of Mana, Honorable Members of Parliament, Vicars General of Mana and Jaffna, Reverend Fathers, Reverend Brothers, Reverend Sisters, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, On behalf of the Diocese of Mana, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to our memorial lecture of late Bishop rayappu Joseph. Bishop rayappu Joseph is an untiring advocate of Tamil rights and justice during Sri Lanka's civil war and post-war years. Today, there is broad agreement in the international community in support for Tamil rights to some form of self-rule or power sharing within a united Sri Lanka. Bishop rayappu Joseph also believed in this and advocated the same theory. His Lordship repeatedly urged the global actors to support the legitimate aspirations of the Tamil community. Although Bishop rayappu Joseph is not alive to witness the result of his untiring advocacy, his staunch support to the Tamil community will remain highly revered. We are happy indeed to have today in our midst a close collaborator of Bishop rayappu Joseph and an internationally renowned personality, none other than Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, as our guest speaker who has accepted the invitation of our bishop and come all the way to deliver this memorial lecture. Our guest speaker, Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, is one of the most esteemed personalities. He has achieved major awards and appreciation taken in the fields of diplomatic and environmental fields. To talk about him would probably consume a lot of time because the achievements are endless. He had a good track record as a minister who pioneered the setting up of a world record by dedicating 1% of the Norwegian national budget as development assistance. He also created the Nature Diversity Act of Norway, which is considered to be the most important environmental legislation in the country for the last 100 years. We cannot forget his untiring mission at the United Nations as the executive director of UN's Environment Program. His contribution to the environmental issues not only benefited the entire humankind, but also will promulgate the upcoming generation to strive for a better future. Your Excellency, you are cordially greeted and extended a warm welcome by our bishop, priests, religious, and the laity. We are highly motivated and are inspired, and I am very sure that your memorial lecture will enlighten us to dedicate ourselves more for peace and reconciliation, following the footsteps of late Bishop rayappu Joseph. On behalf of my bishop, the priests, religious, and the laity, I also extend a cordial welcome to Most Reverend Dr. Noel Emmanuel, the Bishop of Trincomalee and the President of the Northeast Bishops' Council. We are really enriched by your presence, Your Lordship. A warm welcome is extended to the Honorable Government Agent of Mana, Honorable Members of Parliament, and other distinguished guests. I also greet and welcome the Vicars General, Very Reverend Father Kristunayagam and Very Reverend Father Joseph Das Javaratnam from Mana and Jaffna respectively. இந்த நிகழ்வுக்கு வந்திருக்கின்ற உங்கள் அனைவரையும் அன்போடு வரவேற்று நிற்கின்றோம் மறை மாவட்டத்தின் சார்பாக. இங்கு வந்திருக்கின்ற திணைக்கள தலைவர்கள், பங்கு பிரதிநிதிகள், அழைக்கப்பட்ட விருந்தினர்கள், ஆர்வலர்கள், ஏனைய அனைவரையும் அன்போடு வரவேற்று நிற்கின்றோம். தமிழ் மக்களின் விடிவிற்காக தன்னையே அர்ப்பணித்த மறைந்த நம் ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப்பின் நினைவுகளோடும் அவரின் நீதிக்கும் அமைதிக்குமான செயற்பாடுகளோடு நாமும் முன்னெடுத்து செல்ல வேண்டிய அனைத்து விடயங்களிலும் இறைவனுடைய வரம் நம்மோடு இருந்து நம்மை வழிநடத்த வேண்டி நிற்கின்றோம். இறைவன் தாமே நம் அனைவரையும் ஆசீர்வதிக்க வேண்டி உங்களிடமிருந்து விடைபெற்றுக் கொள்கின்றேன். நன்றி.
I have the honor of inviting His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Noel Emmanuel, the Bishop of Trincomalee and the President of Northeast Bishops' Council to address the gathering. திருகோணமலை மறை மாவட்ட ஆயரும் வடக்கு கிழக்கு ஆயர் குழுவின் தலைவருமான மேதக ஆயர் நோயல் இமானுவேல் ஆண்டகை அவர்களை உரையாற்ற வருமாறு பணிவன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
Your Excellency, Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, Bishop of Mana, Your Excellency, Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, Advisor to the President on Environment and Climate Change, Reverend Father Christian Ayham, convener of this event, Reverend Father Jebaradnam, Vicar General, Diocese of Jaffna, Honorable Madam, Government Agent of Mana, Your Lordships, Honorable Judges, Parliamentarians, Reverend Fathers, Reverend Sisters, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to remember the second death anniversary of late Bishop rayappu Joseph. He was a good shepherd, a bishop who was very much concerned about his people. Since he was made Bishop of Mana, he was very strict with the priests. He demanded discipline. He showed his concern towards his priests. He was also a loving shepherd to his people. Bishop also witnessed suffering of his people. People experienced displacements, arrests, torture, killings, destruction of properties. Thus, the bishop was determined to help them. Late Bishop rayappu Joseph became a shepherd to all. He made his presence felt by the people affected. People also had easy access to him whenever they were in need. Bishop made statements against all atrocities. He challenged officers and politicians. He even went to the extent of pleading and begging when needed for the sake of the people. He also had his struggle with the South. He expected and demanded support from the bishops. Many of them could not understand the issues of North and East those days. They also had their own struggle and reasons, because their people were also killed due to bomb blasts. War was over in 2009, but many issues remained unsolved. Missing persons, political prisoners, suppression, erection of new Buddhist temples, new single settlements, destruction of Tamil archaeological sites became never-ending issues. At present, we have the new culture of destroying temples, land grab, erection of new Buddhist temples, and new singular settlements. War crimes were never taken up. Perpetrators were considered war heroes. Even now we have human rights issues. Crime against humanity. International community was slow in its action. Unfortunately, they have their own agenda. Where can we go? It is a separate law for North and East in Sri Lanka. Leaders introduced new laws to suit their comfort and security. Thus, we go to the international community, United Nations organizations, United Nations Human Rights Commission, United Nations Security Council, International Criminal Court ICC, International Court of Justice ICJ. Even they are controlled by a powerful nation. Bishop Rayappu Joseph himself personally took documents of proof of war crimes to the international community. We are still waiting for their judgment. Judgment on the president of Russia was very fast. So whose agenda was it? Easter Sunday bomb blast in 2019 was an eye-opening experience for many, especially in the South. 30-plus year struggle was realized in one day's blasts. God has had his own time and his way. Protests in Colombo in 2022 was another eye-opening for the nation. We cannot go on blaming each other all the time, but grab the opportunity to move forward. War is over. Then what is next? Attitude of the South is celebration. War is over, that means it is celebration. War is over, that means there is peace. South Africa is a nation that went through a process of reconciliation. There is no peace without reconciliation, and there is no reconciliation without justice. So when we think of reconciliation, Sri Lanka is still limping without reconciliation. There is religious and ethnic tension in Sri Lanka. Counseling centers to listen to the grievances of people is a must. Justice to victims and punishment to the perpetrators is a must. Relief and rehabilitation of North and East. Food security to the affected are to be taken up seriously. But there is discrimination in the name of religion, language, region, and ethnicity. Leaders are least concerned about the poor and affected. So the challenge is upon us. Late Bishop Rayappu Joseph left behind a beautiful example. Be concerned and be good shepherds, caring for the flock in all circumstances. Take initiatives to build a good relationship with other communities and religious leaders. We, as priests and religious in Mana, are huge in number. For reconciliation process to be a success, victim should take the first step. We are the victims. That means we are to take the first step. Let us become ambassadors of peace, justice, and love. Thank you, and God bless you all.
all respect and honor, let me invite His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, the Chief Shepherd of the Diocese of Mana, to address us. எமது மறை மாவட்ட தலைமை மெய்ப்பெரும் எமாயர் தந்தையுமான பேரருட் கலாநிதி இமானுவேல் பெர்னாண்டோ ஆண்டகை அவர்களை உரையாற்ற வருமாறு பணிவன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
Your Lordship, Bishop Noel Emmanuel, the Bishop of Trincomalee and the Chairman of our Northeast Bishops' Council, Very Reverend Father Christenagam, the Vicar General of the Diocese of Mana, Very Reverend Father Joseph Das Jabaratnam, the Vicar General of the Diocese of Jaffna, Your Excellency, Honorable Eric Solheim, the main speaker of the day, dear Reverend Fathers, brothers and sisters, I see there are many provincials and fathers who have come from the different congregations. Honorable Mrs. Stanley Dimel, the government agent, the divisional secretary, and all government officers and non-government officers, all special guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I wish to mainly focus on the fact that after Bishop Rayappu Joseph had been the chief shepherd of this Diocese of Mana, after a few years, I had to come as successor, and I feel this could be an occasion to express my gratitude to him. In relation to the second death anniversary of our dearest bishop, the late Bishop Rayappu Joseph, we are gathered here to express our deep sentiments of gratitude for his 23 years of service in this Diocese of Mana. In the midst of a virtual civil war, he had offered a service to the diocese with commendable courage and commitment. The late bishop had taken charge of the diocese during the time of the escalation of the ethnic conflict into a civil war that ravaged the predominantly Tamil regions of the north and the east of the country. In fact, the areas coming under the Catholic Diocese of Mana suffered very badly during that time. The late Bishop Rayappu was a frontline figure in the diocese, leading relief work, protesting against armed attacks and bombings of civilians, and comforting the displaced and the dispossessed people. He was courageous and forthright in condemning all forms of human rights abuses by all sides in the Sri Lankan conflict. He pointed out the morality issues when the Sri Lankan state failed in the responsibility to govern all the communities with equality, fairness, and justice, and when other leaders were rather silent. He created awareness in the Tamil and Sinhalese communities about the importance of peace and harmony for the future of Sri Lanka. He championed human rights through awareness programs, campaigns and documentation of human rights violations, and worked to achieve free and fair elections. Under his leadership, the Mana Diocese opened up homes for war orphans, abandoned children and the elderly, healthcare center dispensaries, girls' hostels, vocational training centers, rehabilitation centers for refugees, centers for fishermen, and conducted human rights training programs for the clergy and the civilians. Today, we remember him with immense gratitude for all that is continuing for our people. Though there were many issues to face during the wartime, he has left us with a strong network for caring for the poor and the helpless. The late Bishop Rayappu was loved and adored by those who suffered the brunt of the war as the people's bishop. He suffered on account of them and became one with them. He became a vocal human rights activist and a campaigner for justice by openly criticizing militarization of the North and the East, and participated in many protests against state atrocities both during and after the Civil War. Due to his continued advocacy and campaigns in support of the suffering masses, he was subjected to abuse and threats, including accusations of favoring the Tamil Tigers by the Sri Lankan government and the media. In such a situation, the late bishop faced many challenges. There were many incidents that aggravated his predicament. Orchestrated media attacks were launched accusing him of being a tiger bishop. He was frequently described as being a controversial bishop. He was often unfairly accused of being a tiger sympathizer. But in spite of all the accusations, challenges, and misunderstandings, to his credit, Bishop Rayappu rose to the occasion with commendable courage. As the chief shepherd of the flock in Mana, he spoke out the truth with formidable audacity. Once in an interview, he said, "I'm called the controversial bishop because there are controversial issues taking place, and when I speak on these issues, I turn out to be controversial. If I speak out, I am an outspoken bishop. If I care for the poor and fight for justice, I am an anti-Sri Lankan, a LTT, or a separatist. So, what am I to do? I care less about these names, but I will keep voicing against injustice, fight against human rights violations. As the bishop and the follower of Jesus Christ, who was a victim of violence, yet manifested the truth, the life, and the way, I am doing my duties. I am only standing for truth and justice." He could make his own the words of St. Paul, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." We are grateful to him for all that he did for the people of this diocese and for the humanity at large. And we pray that the Lord grant him eternal rest. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Now, Mr. Joseph Mariam Pillai, Senior Advisor and Senior Leadership Fellow at the Faculty of Social Sciences, Chiang Mai University, Thailand, will introduce the Honorable Guest Speaker to the forum.
Thank you. I don't think I have any other introduction. I printed a copy. I think many things have been already said about him, so it makes my job very easy. It's been a blessing and a pleasure to be here on the memorial second anniversary of our shepherd, the shepherd that guided me to the international diplomacy and development. And in that path, I had a chance to nurtured by mentors like Honorable Eric Solheim. I want to thank for Honorable Eric to be here. I know it was not an easy decision for him to come, particularly traveling all the way from Colombo this morning, and he has to fly back tonight from here straight to the airport. So we really appreciate you being here. As someone who worked with our bishop hugely contributed for us to live in peace, particularly during the peace process. And so when we discussing who should we invite, we were looking at some of the people who work with our bishop, who were supporting the peace in Sri Lanka. Among them, there were only very handful of people still alive here. So we thought about it's a great opportunity for us to invite Honorable Eric Solheim to share his experience thoughts. There are still a few things that I need to add about Eric Solheim. He's a well-known global leader on environment and development. He's a former UN diplomat, Norwegian politician, and experienced negotiator. He is a president of Belt and Green Development Initiative in Beijing, senior advisor to World Resource Institute, chief mentor of Global Alliance for Sustainable Planet. His involvement in the peace process not limited to Sri Lanka. He played an instrumental role in Nepal, Myanmar, where I have an opportunity working with him, and Sudan. He is very active in social media with a huge following on Twitter. He hosts widely watched podcasts where he has interviewed like Christina Ferguson and Bertrand Breckhardt. At the early stage, he was skeptical about some hydropower project in his home country, Norway, but he has become appreciate the key role it plays in the energy transition. Now he is a strong advocate for sustainable hydropower. So it's great pleasure. Let me invite Honorable Eric Solheim to the stage.
Today, we are very happy to have His Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim in our midst. As a matter of great honor and pleasure that we have His Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim with us today to speak about the rapport he had with our late Bishop Rayappu Joseph. With all honor and respect, I cordially invite His Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim to deliver the memorial talk.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Manar, Vanakam. I'm so pleased to be here to speak with so many of the Catholic cardinals of Sri Lanka, with members of parliament, with local political leaders, with people from the armed forces, and of course with you, the citizens of Manar. Here are people from so many walks of life, and I will speak about two topics. One is peace, and the other is the environment. This morning I traveled from Colombo to Puttalam, to Anuradhapura, and here to Mannar, and all the way up to the coast, where soon there will be a ferry over to India, and which is of course exactly at the point where God Ram and Hanuman came to Sri Lanka many thousand years ago. What was striking, of course, was the beauty of this land. Can there be any more beautiful place on planet Earth? Sri Lanka for sure is the most beautiful island. Maybe it's the most beautiful land because you have high mountains, you have rice paddies, you have drier part of the land, you have elephants, you have animals, you have a long coastline, you have basically everything God Almighty can give to humans. This is a fantastically beautiful land, and of course we need to keep that land. This is my first visit to the Tamil part of Sri Lanka after the peace process. So last time I was here was in 2005, quite some time ago. But I also recall the first time I came to Madhu, because that was the most secret mission we did during the peace process. Only 2 people in Colombo at the time were aware. One was the president, Chandrika Kumaratunga. The other was the foreign minister, Lakshman Kadigamar. And they have accepted that we should go to Madhu, where we would meet the Tamil Tigers, and they would take us to meet Mr. Prabhakaran. That was the first time I met with Prabhakaran, and it was indeed the first time, at least in 10 years, that any foreign envoy met with him. And we did for many years all we could to bring peace. I can only apologize that we didn't succeed. There was so much suffering for so many good people, Tamils, Muslims, and Sinhala, and all that suffering should have been avoided. The reason we remember this extraordinary Sri Lankan, this extraordinary Tamil, this extraordinary man here from Madhu and Mannar, in my view, comes down to 2 words. His peace and his justice. Because Father Rayappu Joseph, he understood both. Peace is absolutely essential, because without peace there is so much suffering. How many mothers in Sri Lanka not lost their children? How many didn't lose the husband? But he also understood that if you take up arms, sometimes you do not achieve what you want. You may even achieve the opposite of what you want, because no one can control a violent process, so violence is not the answer. But he was also adamant that there need to be justice, because every people, every individual on the planet expects dignity for him or herself, for this religion, for the language, for the culture. And if people do not feel justice, well, young activists may feel tempted to take up arms. So this is very much linked. And the message from this great man, in my view, is let's make sure that the future of Sri Lanka is a peaceful Sri Lanka with no sort of political or any other violence. But let it also be a Sri Lanka where all people feel dignified and where there is justice. And frankly, I am fairly optimistic that in the next few months we will see the main leaders of the South, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Sajid Premadasa, many others coming together with Tamil and Muslim leaders to implement the 13th Amendment, so that we will see a way to more self-rule for Tamils in the north, but in accordance with the wish from this man, self-rule within one united Sri Lanka, because people, Tamils and Sinhalese, are living all over this island. There is no other solution than to keep Sri Lanka one political entity. But peace and justice within Sri Lanka, that was his message. But he was also an extraordinary individual. To my knowledge, he helped LTTE cadres, helped members of the armed forces of Sri Lanka, and of course he helped numerous citizens with a focus on helping the poor the most, because they are the most in need of help of the church and of dignitaries. But this reaching out to see the human, whoever that human is, that I may not agree to everything that human says, but that ability was so strong and so much appreciated by so many at the time, but also remembered for the future and inspiring us, because the biggest way, or the best way of memorizing a person is to make sure that we take the message into the future. It's not about the past, it's mainly about the future, and the future of Sri Lanka is peace and peace with justice. But there is a message here which is wider than Sri Lanka. Thank you. But because not only Sri Lanka need peace, the world need peace. And we can find inspiration for... That's okay. Thank you. The world need to be a more peaceful place. In my view, there is no better way to be inspired for peace and to fight for the environment than in the world religions. That's why you see so many people of faith fighting for peace and fighting for the environment. I mean, beyond everything, Father Joseph was a man of God. He felt he had a calling for God to help people in Sri Lanka and to help bring peace. But look to all the major religions. Yes, true, there have been Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus have fought horrible wars. But the message of all these religions is a message of peace. Christ didn't even hit back when they came to kill him. Did he hit back? No, accepted his destiny because he felt peace was the most important. And of course in the Bible there is the environment all over the place. The Bible starts with environment. God is creating earth. I mean, first he's creating the planet, and he's creating the animals and the birds, everything. And then at the end he's creating the humans and putting the humans into this planet. And at the seventh day he's so happy with himself because he has created this wonderful place called Gaia, or Mother Earth. So it's a strong, strong message from the Bible to keep peace and to keep environment. But look, in Buddhism, can there be any more peaceful man in human history than Buddha himself? He inspired so many people to make peace. I mean, he even inspired the Indian king Ashoka to keep peace, that after many horrible wars, Ashoka decided time has come for peace, and he created one of the most wonderful, peaceful empires in Indian history, based on inspiration from Buddha. Move on to Islam. Yes, you have some horrible, violent Muslims. I mean, the crazy guys who killed lots of people in churches in Sri Lanka and the Easter bombing. Nothing to do with Islam. Islam, again, is a message of peace, and it's a message of green. Islam is the only religion which comes with a color. And what's the color of Islam? It's green. Why is it green? Well, because Islam came out of the desert of Saudi Arabia, which was very, very, very dry. And if you come from such a place, you really venerate the oasis and the greenery. Where there is trees, there is life, and that's why the color of Islam is green. And look to the old Indians. They venerated nature so much that they made God half animal, half human. Hanuman, half monkey, half human. Ganesh, half elephant, half human. That was the veneration of nature, that they couldn't separate human from nature. If we want to be good as humans, we also need to be good to animals and to Mother Earth. And there is a fantastic inspirational saying from the old Vedas. It says, the whole universe is one family. That we should take to heart, each and every one, because if we live on that basis, the whole universe is one family, the world will be a better place. Yes, the first duty of all of us is to help the nearest. Help our family, help our neighbors, but then comes helping the wider community, helping the nation, and at the end helping the international community to keep peace, because otherwise everything will be difficult. The horrible wars going on in Ukraine. There was very recently a horrible war in Ethiopia. It's a horrible war in Yemen. And we should call for people in all these conflicts to find compromises and keep peace. And above everything else, if we look outside Sri Lanka to the international community, we should call upon the two most important powers of our time, that's the United States of America and China, to find solutions together. Because whatever is the demand of our time, we need to find solutions together. We cannot fight terrorism nation by nation. We need to fight it together. Cannot fight pandemics one by one. We need to fight pandemics together. We cannot bring up the global economy after the COVID alone. We can only do it together. Cannot bring the poorest of the poor in African nation out of poverty alone. Can only do it together. And of course, climate change and environment are challenges for everyone. Only together we can solve these issues. And if the main powers, the United States and China, but indeed Europe, India, Turkey, Brazil, whatever power is there, also smaller nations like Sri Lanka or Norway, my nation, if we work together, we can solve the main issues. And the biggest problem at the moment with this is that the United States have huge difficulties accepting that there is another power at the same level. The United States for 100 years was used to being the global superpower. It was the shining city on the hill. Most successful nation, most high-tech nation, richest nation, and in many ways the most democratic nation in the world. It was the nation we all admired. And Americans admire also their own success, for sure. So for the United States to accept that now there are two nations who are at the same level. China has now better airport, better roads, better railroads than the United States. The American universities may be a little bit better than the Chinese, but they're more or less at the same level. And when it comes to technology, the two nations are at the same level, or even China may have passed the United States when it comes to the level of technology. But that's hard for America to accept, and we need to help the United States to accept that the future of the world will be these two powers, but with many more, including, of course, your neighbor, India, which will be one of the massive powers in the 21st century. If you look 30 years into the future, the by far biggest economy in the world will be China. Second biggest economy in the world will be India, and only the third biggest economy in the world will be the United States, if we move as we are at the moment. And for a white Western nation to accept that China and then India will be powers equal to us, that's hard for Westerners, but it's time to accept it, because only together we can solve problems. China will not adopt the American political system in the next 100 years, I give it a bet. But nor, of course, will America adopt the Chinese political system in the next 100 years. But what is the reason that we cannot work together? China, based on their 2,500-year-old Confucian system, which has served China so well. America, based on their democratic system, which is serving America well, but we can work together to solve common issues. And Sri Lanka, frankly, being a small nation but with only friends, no nation sees Sri Lanka as a threat or a problem for themselves. Sri Lanka has only friends, but Sri Lanka can speak to India, to China, to the United States and to all, and play the role as a small nation bringing peace together, building bridges, not walls. Then coming to the environment, because I'm absolutely sure that if Bishop Joseph had been with us today, he would also have agreed that the biggest challenge for humanity in the 21st century is to get environment right. We have a triple environment crisis. I will not dwell upon it because I think you all know. Climate change is making the planet hotter, changing weather patterns, and Sri Lanka is one of the most vulnerable nations in the world when it comes to climate change. Northern Sri Lanka is fairly dry. It may be drier. Southern Sri Lanka is very wet. It may be wetter with more landslides and more flooding, and it has a long coast, so Sri Lanka is very well threatened by climate change. Second, we have pollution. Well, Sri Lanka is not among the most polluted nations in the world, but if you go to neighboring India and see the pollution in some of the northern Indian cities, it's horrible pollution, and it's killing people because pollution is destroying lives. And we are destroying ecosystems, bringing down forests, wiping out animals. Yes, there are also a lot of progress. Let's celebrate that. Tiger population in India and Nepal has now been doubled. That's fantastic, good news. And look, tiger is maybe the most difficult of all animals to protect, because tigers are attacking us to eat us. Hardly any other animal do that. I mean, mosquitoes are dangerous, but they don't come to eat us. But tigers try to eat us, and still the Indians are able to protect the tigers. Chinese are protecting the snow leopards and the pandas. Africa, gorilla population is going up thanks to good efforts. In the United Kingdom, beavers have come back thanks to good efforts. So a lot is happening on the good side, but we also have a major problem by destruction of nature. So that's setting the problem, but I'm much more interested in the solution. Because if we see environment not just as a problem, but as an enormous opportunity, then that's an enormously important way out of the economic crisis for Sri Lanka. And the two dominant nations now, we Westerners don't see it, but China is now in every environment technology, China dominates. 82% of all solar panels in the world last year were made in China. 70% of all electric batteries were made in China. If you buy a Tesla, well, the car is designed in California, but the battery is made in China, and the battery is half the value of the car. So is it an American car or is it a Chinese car? Well, it's a matter of taste. Hydropower was mentioned there. 80% of all new hydropower last year in the entire world came in China alone. 57% of all electric cars in the world were sold in one nation alone, and that is China. And the reason China has been so successful is that they are seeing environment not as a problem, but as an opportunity. They are not going into all the green sectors just because they are environmentalists, but because it's good economics. They think they can create many more jobs in China for the people of China, bring people out of poverty, create prosperity if they go green. And very interestingly enough, that's exactly the perspective of Prime Minister Madhu of India. He's launching green missions for India by the day with the aim of bringing jobs and prosperity to India and solving environment problems at the same time. Just across the strait here in Tamil Nadu, it's a company called Ola. It's the Uber of India. Ola just set up a factory making electric scooters. 2,000 young, beautiful Tamil girls are making scooters there. Completely clean, good salaries, fantastic job opportunity for women who traditionally in society they didn't really have paid jobs. And the owner said, I wanted to show what Indian girls and ladies can achieve. And I made a slogan for Ola. It says, Tesla for the rest, Tesla for the West, Ola for the rest. Meaning, of course, that they think that they can capture the markets all over the world by making scooters and later cars, electric cars in India. And of course, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has exactly the same vision as President Xi Jinping of China, as Prime Minister Madhu of India, to see going green as a way out of the economic crisis which you have all suffered from. When you speak to Sri Lankans, I mean, everyone can tell me about difficulties they faced in the last year with the economic crisis here. But going into renewable energies and green products is a way out of that crisis. Solar energy is now the cheapest energy everywhere in the world. So if you scrap coal and go into solar, not just is good for environment, not just is good for our pollution, but it's also very good for the economy. Sri Lanka will save money which can be used for education and health by using the sun, which is Sri Lankan. The oil and gas is not Sri Lankan. You import every pound of oil and gas coming into these nations coming from somewhere else. For Russia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, I don't know, they're coming from somewhere else, draining the state budgets. moving into solar keeps the money here and the jobs here, added to being very good for the environment. I just went today to see some of the wind farms here. The price of wind energy has come down with 80% in the last decade, so solar and wind will now very soon be the biggest source of energy for humanity, passing coal. By 2025, globally it will be the biggest source of energy. Yes, I'm aware that there are issues. I hear people saying that they are not so happy with the windmills in Talamanar. And so there is some skepticism to Adani making investment. I can give just one advice. Let there be a dialogue. Find some ways where the renewable energies like wind can coexist with the fishermen and the farmers. Why can't there be farming under the windmills? Discuss with the companies. Where should the windmills be put so that there is the least impact on fisheries, if there is anyone? But dialogue between the people affected and the companies and the governments who try to put it up, I think can come a long way in solving those issues, which some people are raising their hand and saying we are concerned. But solar and wind and hydropower are huge opportunity for this land. So, enormous opportunities for solar, great opportunities for wind, many rivers where you can pump up the water when there is no sun. You pump up the water when there is sun, and you release the water when there is no sun. So you have a battery by the hydropower. And this can be integrated with new technologies by artificial intelligence into one system, which is working very efficiently. And this is the future for Sri Lanka. It will happen, but the faster it happens, the better for the economy and the more jobs there will be, and of course better for Mother Earth. So that's the first. Please embrace this new renewable revolution. Be in no doubt 10 years into the future, if you have car, all the cars will be electric. All new cars in Sri Lanka in 10 years will be electric. And it's going like that in the world. Figures from last year, 11% of all cars sold in the world last year were electric. That was 80% in my nation, Norway. It was 25% in China, being the biggest market. It was 11% in Europe and 6% in the United States, but it's going like that. And the United States, President Biden has made enormous subsidies for electric cars and for green hydrogen, which will drive American business into all the green sectors. If a nation like Sri Lanka decides to stand on the sidelines, well, it will be the loser of history, because everyone else will go in that direction. If Sri Lanka embraces it, like Ranil Wickremesinghe really want to see, then Sri Lanka can be a driving nation in this new green revolution, and they're good for everyone. Second area is, of course, to find a new way of being with nature. Every human being has some love for nature, and indeed in this nation, which is so beautiful, there's so many reasons to love nature. But that can also be turned into an opportunity, because tourists are coming because they want to see beautiful landscapes. Yes, tourists also want to drink red wine or beer or whatever. They want to taste Sri Lankan good food. They want to go to the fantastic cultural sites of Sri Lanka. They want to see the elephants. They want all this. But tourists come largely to Sri Lanka because of the beauty of the land, the beauty of the beaches, and the beauty of the national parks. And if that's kept better, more tourists will come. Plastic pollution is a non-starter. No tourists want to swim in an ocean of plastic. So that must go. But keeping better for the nature of Sri Lanka is again a way to create value and more jobs. Let me give you one example, which is maybe the most shining in the world. In the small African nation of Rwanda, the number of gorillas is now going up very, very fast. Gorillas in the past were very threatened because people killed them for bush meat, simply to eat them. But now it's going skyrocketing. Why is that? Because Rwanda has created a fantastic tourist industry where people pay very high amounts. It costs you $1,500. I can't tell you how many rupees it is, but maybe someone else can tell you. But it costs you $1,500 for 1 hour with the gorillas. Yes, that may be a tourist industry for the rich, but it's a fantastic economy for the bus drivers, the tourist guides, the local teachers and nurses. They benefit, and they are, of course, the frontline defenders of the animals, because if the animals go, their income will also go. So, and Sri Lanka's potential here is great. So far there has been more tourism in the southern part of Sri Lanka than here in the north. But look here, it's a fantastic opportunity. The sandbanks you must find a way, of course, where tourists can see the sandbanks without destroying the birds. But all these can always be worked up if there is a good dialogue. But they are very unique. There are very, very few places with these sort of sandbanks. The beaches are beautiful, the nature is beautiful, and a number of people want to come to this place because it's also a religious site. There is a revival of Hinduism in India. If you go to the temples there, sorry to say for us Christians, but there is an enormous revival of passion for Hinduism in India. The temples are full late night, and many people venerate, of course, Ram, and they want to come and see the place where Ram and Hanuman made their expedition to punish the evil king of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ravana. Make it a tourist site, and many people will come, and it will create jobs for those who run the small restaurants and bars and hotels and tourist guides, etc. So again, see environment as an opportunity, not as a problem. Ranil Wickremesinghe has launched the ambition that Sri Lanka shall increase the tree cover by 10% in the next decade. That's the same as the ambition of Tamil Nadu, because it has a bigger landmass. In the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, the chief minister of the state is planting 1 tree every day. Well, it makes a little forest by him just in the city of Bhopal. But, of course, much more importantly, he inspired 80 million people in his state to plant trees. And everyone can plant a tree. All of you can plant trees. Get the samplings, get the right varieties, and start planting in your garden, in your village, wherever you come from. And of course, this is such a green and arable place that it will fast grow. So going into the renewable and electric future, taking better care of Mother Earth. And the third issue is that we need to move more into a circular economy. Look, my grandmother lived in a complete circular economy. And I'm sure basically all your grandparents also did. She never threw away anything. It was always a new way of using something because they were poor. But now when the vast majority of Sri Lankans are part of a middle class, we have much more opportunity to use for once and then throw away. Throw away electronic waste, throw away food, throw away plastics. This is not a moral judgment because it's exactly the same for me. My grandmother threw away nothing. My mother never threw away food because she had experienced a time when there was little food in Norway. She remembered that as a child, and then she decided she would never throw away food. She would eat it, even if it was a little harsh, a little old, maybe not so tasty, still she will eat it. But it was more difficult for us, the younger generation, which has living in a lot more affluence. But we need to come back to the circular economy, not in the old fashion of poverty, but in the new way of reusing things. If you take the air conditioning here, or your computer back home, or I'm sure everyone in this room will have a cell phone, when we need a new cell phone, we cannot just throw it away. Everything in that cell phone can be reused. In India, there is a company called Atero that told me there is nothing in a computer or cell phone we in Atero cannot recycle. Everything. Just make sure it's brought in and it will be recycled. There is more gold in 1 kilo of electronic waste than there is in 1 kilo from a gold ore out in nature. Same with plastic, we cannot just throw it away, destroying our beaches and killing animals. I mean, whales and seabirds and turtles are dying from eating plastics. We need to bring the plastic we need back in and then start recycling it. Some is happening. I mean, it's all just set up a new waste-to-energy facility in Colombo, brand new, built by a Chinese company, great Sri Lankan staff, and they get energy out of basically every waste which is thrown away in Colombo. But we need to take this circular economy. You may not know it, but 99% of all clothes on planet Earth are just thrown away. Many of these clothes can be used again by yourself or by some other people. If they cannot be used again, they can be recycled into new products so that we just don't throw away and throw away and throw away. And a circular economy is good for the economy, creating jobs, saving materials so we don't need to mine for every new thing, and it's good for the environment all the same. So I know that this is very, very much in line with the vision of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. He wants to see Sri Lanka as a nation which takes even better care of its beautiful nature. He wants to see this nation going rapidly into solar and wind and green hydrogen. And he wants to see this nation also picking up the circular economy. But of course he cannot do it alone. But he can do it with the great support of people here in Mannar, and indeed by all the 22 million people in this fantastically beautiful land. Let me come back at the end to Bishop Joseph. I said that in the old Indian text there is the notion that the entire universe is one family. I was reminded that there's a Tamil expression for that, which says that Yadum ore yavarum curlir. Excuse me if my Tamil is not good. But it's a Tamil way of saying exactly the same. It's from the 6th century. It says that all places on earth are your town and all the people are your relatives. Let's take this old Veda saying and this old Tamil saying to heart, and let's implement the great vision of Bishop Joseph to create a peaceful Sri Lanka with justice, and a Sri Lanka which align with the rest of the world, seeing the entire world as one family. Thank you so much.
இந்த நினைவு பேருரையின் தமிழ் மொழிபெயர்ப்பினை வழங்க வருமாறு மன்னார் மடுமாதா சிறிய குறுமட அதிபர் அருட்தந்தை கிறிஸ்துநேச அடிகளார் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். இந்த உரையிலே திரு எரிக் சொல்ஹெய்ம் அவர்கள் முதலிலே அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டார். அதன் பிற்பாடு தன்னுடைய உரையை 2 பிரிவாக அவர் அமைத்து கொண்டு தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை வெளியிட்டார். முதலாவது யுத்தமும் சமாதானமும் என்ற தொனிப்பொருளிலே அவர் தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை பகிர்ந்தார். இரண்டாவதாக சுற்றுப்புறச் சூழல், காலநிலை மாற்றம் தொடர்பான கருத்துக்களை வெளியிட்டார். அதற்குத்தான் இப்பொழுது அவர் பொறுப்பாக இருக்கின்றார். முன்னர் அவர் வகித்த அந்த வகிபாகத்தின் அடிப்படையிலே இந்த முதலாவது கருத்தை யுத்தமும் சமாதானமும் என்ற வகையிலே அவர் தெரிவித்தார். இலங்கை ஒரு அழகான நாடு, இயற்கை வளங்கள் நிறைந்த ஒரு நாடு, மலைகள், யானைகள், பறவைகள் என்று இயற்கையிலேயே அழகு நிறைந்த ஒரு நாடாக இந்த நாடு இருக்கின்றது. இப்படியான ஒரு நாட்டிலே ஒரு இன வன்முறை, போர் சூழல் ஏற்பட்ட நிலையிலே சந்திரிகா அம்மையார் அதிபராக, ஜனாதிபதியாக இருந்த பொழுது கதிர்காமர் அவர்கள் வெளியுறவுத்துறை அமைச்சராக இருந்த சூழ்நிலையிலே 98ஆம் ஆண்டு இந்த யுத்த சூழ்நிலையிலே சமாதான முன்னெடுப்புகளை மேற்கொள்வதற்காக தன்னை இலங்கை அரசாங்கம் அழைத்ததாக அவர் தெரிவிக்கின்றார். முதலாக இந்த சந்திப்பு திரு பிரபாகரன் விடுதலை புலிகளின் தலைவர் அவர்களை மடுவிலே சந்தித்ததாகவும் அந்த சந்திப்பு இரகசியமானதாக அமைந்ததாகவும் அவர் சொன்னார். அதை பற்றி முதல் நாங்கள் கேள்விப்பட்ட பொழுது மடு பரிபாலகருக்கே அந்த சந்திப்பு தெரியாது என்று முந்தைய நாங்கள் பகுதியாக சொல்வது. அந்த சந்திப்பு மிக மிக ரகசியமாக மடுவிலே நடந்தது. அந்த அனுபவத்தை அவர் இறைமீட்டிக் கொண்டார். அடுத்ததாக மக்களுடைய துன்பங்கள் மட்டிலே நாம் எல்லோரும் அறிந்தபடி முன்னாள் ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டகை அவர்கள் மிகுந்த அக்கறை கொண்டவராக இருந்தார். சமாதானமும் நீதியும் அவருடைய ஒரு இதய வேட்கையாக தாகமாக இருந்தது. அவர் வன்முறையை எப்பொழுதுமே ஆதரித்தவர் அல்ல. வன்முறை இந்த பிரச்சினைக்கு தீர்வாக அமையாது என்பதிலே அவர் திடமான நம்பிக்கை கொண்டிருந்தார். ஏற்றத்தாழ்வு இல்லாத ஒரு இலங்கையை அவர் காண விரும்பினார். சிங்களவர்கள் மற்ற இனத்தவர்கள் எப்படியாக சுதந்திரமாக வாழ்கின்றார்களோ அதே போன்று தமிழர்களும் சுதந்திரமாக வாழ வேண்டும் என்ற அந்த எதிர்பார்ப்பு தான் அவருடைய அடிமனதிலே இருந்தது. ஆகவே ஏற்றத்தாழ்வு இல்லாத எல்லோரும் சமனாக வாழக்கூடிய ஒரு நாட்டை ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டகை பார்க்க விரும்பினார். அது நிறைவேறாத ஒரு சூழ்நிலையில்தான் யுத்தம் மிகவும் மும்முரமாக்கப்பட்டு இறுதி யுத்தத்திலே அனைத்து சமாதான முயற்சிகளும் சீர்குலைக்கப்பட்டதை அவர் ஏற்றுக்கொண்டார். அடுத்ததாக இப்பொழுது இருக்கின்ற சூழ்நிலையை பற்றி அவர் சொல்லுகின்ற பொழுது அவர் சொன்னார், இப்பொழுது 13ஆம் திருத்த சட்டத்தை நடைமுறைப்படுத்த வேண்டும் என்று ஜனாதிபதி மிகவும் அக்கறையாக இருக்கின்றார். ஆனால் அதற்கு பல எதிர்ப்புகள் இருப்பதை அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். ஆகவே எதிர்கால இலங்கை என்பது சமாதானம் நிறைந்த ஒரு இலங்கையாகத்தான் இருக்க வேண்டும். அதற்கு அப்பால் இந்த சமாதானத்தை ஏற்படுத்துவதற்கு அப்பால் எந்த சாத்தியமும் இல்லை, அதற்கு அப்பால் வாழ்வு இல்லை, சமாதானம் இருக்க முடியாது, சமாதானம்தான் ஒரே தீர்வு, ஒரே வழி என்பதை அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். ராயப்பு ஜோசப் அவர்கள் ஒரு இறை மனிதனாக இருந்தார். அவர் தமிழர்களுக்காக மட்டும் குரல் கொடுத்தவர் அல்ல, எல்லா மக்களுடைய விடுதலை வாழ்வுக்காக, எல்லா மக்களும் நிம்மதியாக வாழ வேண்டும் என்பதற்காகத்தான் அவருடைய குரல் ஓங்கி ஒலித்து கொண்டிருந்தது. இப்படியாக இந்த ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டகை பற்றியும் இலங்கை வன்முறை சூழல் பற்றியும் பேசிய அவர் தொடர்ந்து சுற்றுப்புற சூழல் சம்பந்தமாக தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை வெளியிட்டார். அதாவது கிரீன் என்று சொல்லி அந்த பசுமை திட்டம் எவ்வளவுக்கு முக்கியமானது என்பதை அவர் சொன்னார். வேதங்களிலும் கூட அது சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கின்றது. முழு உலகமும் ஒரே குடும்பமாக இருக்கின்ற சூழ்நிலையிலே எல்லோரும் நிம்மதியாக சந்தோஷமாக வாழ வேண்டும் என்று சொன்னால் இந்த பசுமை திட்டத்தை அனைவரும் கைக்கொள்ள வேண்டும். இதை நடைமுறைப்படுத்துவதிலே ஒருவருக்கு உதவியாக இருக்க வேண்டும் என்பதையும் அவர் சொன்னார். யுத்தம் முடிவடைந்த நாடுகள் சிலவற்றினுடைய அனுபவங்களையும் அவர் சொன்னார். இப்பொழுது யுத்தம் நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்ற கடுமையான யுத்தம் நடக்கின்ற யுக்ரைன், எத்தியோப்பியா போன்ற நாடுகளிலே எப்படியாக மனித வளங்கள் அளிக்கப்படுகின்றன என்பதை பற்றி சொன்னார். இந்த காலநிலை மாற்றத்தினாலே இன்று உலகத்தில் ஏற்பட்டு கொண்டிருக்கின்ற அழிவுகளை பற்றியும் அவர் குறிப்பிட்டார். அடுத்ததாக அமெரிக்கா உலக வல்லரசாக இருக்கின்ற ஒரு சூழ்நிலையிலே தொழில்நுட்பத்திலே அந்த நாடு எந்தளவுக்கு வளர்ந்து வருகின்றது என்பதையும், அந்த அமெரிக்க நாட்டுக்கு போட்டியாக சீன நாடு எப்படியாக இன்று தொழில்நுட்பத்துறையிலே வளர்ந்து வருகின்றது என்பதையும், அதற்கு அடுத்ததாக இந்தியா எப்படியாக இந்த தொழில்நுட்பத்துறையிலே வளர்ச்சி அடைவதற்கு அது பல முன்னெடுப்புகளை மேற்கொள்ளுகின்றது, தமிழ்நாடு கூட இந்த தொழில்நுட்பத்துறையிலே வளர்கின்ற ஒரு மாநிலமாக இருப்பதையும் அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். ஆகவே இலங்கையை பொறுத்த மட்டிலும் இந்த சுற்றுப்புறச் சூழல் என்பது மிக மிக முக்கியமான ஒன்று. இயற்கையாகவே இந்த நாடு எல்லா வளங்களையும் கொண்ட ஒரு நாடாக இருக்கின்றது. ஆகவே இந்த காலநிலை மாற்றத்தினாலே ஏற்படக்கூடிய பாதிப்புகளிலிருந்து இந்த நாடு மீள வேண்டும் என்று சொன்னால் இந்த சுற்றுப்புற சூழல் சம்பந்தமான ஒரு விழிப்புணர்வு, அதற்கான செயல் திட்டங்கள் எல்லா வகையிலும் முன்னெடுக்க வேண்டும் என்பதை சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். சீன நாட்டை பற்றி அவர் சொல்லுகின்ற பொழுது எல்லா வகையான வளங்களும் அங்கு இருந்தாலும், இயற்கை வளங்கள் இருந்தாலும் அவர்கள் சூரிய சக்தியை பயன்படுத்துவதிலே இன்று முன்னணியிலே நிற்கின்றார்கள். அதேபோன்று இந்தியாவும் இந்த தொழில்நுட்ப துறையிலே இன்று எலக்ட்ரிக் கார்ஸ் என்று அவர் சொன்னார், தொழில்நுட்ப ரீதியான பல முன்னேற்றங்களை இந்தியாவும் எட்டி வருகின்றது. ஆகவே அந்த அடிப்படையில் தான் தற்பொழுது இலங்கையிலே ஜனாதிபதியாக இருக்கக்கூடிய திரு ரணில் விக்ரமசிங்கே அவர்களும் இந்த சுற்றுப்புற சூழலிலே இலங்கையும் முன்னேற வேண்டும், அந்த விடயத்திலே இயற்கை சக்திகளை, சூரிய சக்தி போன்ற சோலார் எனர்ஜி அவற்றையும் பயன்படுத்தி இலங்கை நாடு முன்னேற வேண்டும் என்பதிலே இலங்கை ஜனாதிபதி மிகவும் அக்கறையாக, கரிசனையாக இருக்கின்றார் என்பதையும் அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். தான் இன்று தலைமன்னாருக்கு போய் வந்ததாகவும், இங்கு வடபகுதியிலே இருக்கக்கூடிய வளங்களை, இயற்கை வளங்களை சக்தியாக மாற்றி நம்முடைய தேவைகளை நிறைவு செய்கின்றவர்களாக, தன்னிறைவு பெறுகின்றவர்களாக மாற வேண்டும் என்பதை சொன்னார். மீனவர்கள், விவசாயிகள் போன்றவர்களும் இந்த இயற்கை சக்தியை பயன்படுத்துகின்ற வழிமுறைகளை கையாள வேண்டும் என்று குறிப்பிட்டார். சூரிய சக்தி மூலமான பல நன்மை திறங்களை பெற முடியும் என்று சொன்னார். அடுத்ததாக உல்லாச பயணிகள் தொடர்பாகவும் தன்னுடைய கருத்துக்களை வெளியிட்டார். இலங்கையிலே மிகவும் அழகான கடற்கரை இருக்கின்றது, அழகான இயற்கை காட்சிகள் நிறைந்த இடங்கள் இருக்கின்றது. ஆகவே இந்த உல்லாச பயணிகளை ஊக்குவிப்பதற்கு இந்த இயற்கையான இந்த அழகான இடங்கள் இன்னும் மேம்படுத்தப்பட வேண்டும். அதன் மூலமாக நிறைந்த வேலைவாய்ப்புகளை இலங்கை மக்களுக்கு பெற்றுக் கொடுக்க முடியும் என்று சொன்னார். யுத்தத்திலிருந்து மீண்டு வந்திருக்கக்கூடிய சில நாடுகளை அவர் உதாரணமாக காட்டினார். ருவண்டா என்ற சிறிய ஆப்பிரிக்க நாடு யுத்தத்தாலே பாதிக்கப்பட்டு அழிவடைந்த நிலையிலே இன்று அது உல்லாச பிரயாணிகளை கவருகின்ற ஒரு இடமாக அது கட்டியெழுப்பப்பட்டிருக்கின்றது என்பதையும் அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். ஆகவே இலங்கையின் வளங்களை சரியாக பயன்படுத்த வேண்டும். ஏனென்றால் இலங்கை இயற்கையிலேயே அழகான ஒரு இடம் என்பதனாலே உல்லாச பிரயாணிகளை கவருவதற்கேற்ற மாதிரியாக செயல் திட்டங்களை முன்னெடுக்க வேண்டும் என்று சொன்னார். அவர் தொடர்ந்து சொல்லுகின்ற பொழுது சுற்றுப்புற சூழலை ஒரு பிரச்சனையாக பார்க்காமல் அதை ஒரு வாய்ப்பாக பார்க்க வேண்டும் என்று கூறினார். இறுதியாக இந்த பூமி தாய் இயற்கையான வளங்களை நமக்கு தந்திருக்கின்றது. இலங்கையில் இருக்கக்கூடிய மக்கள் அநேகமாக எல்லோரும் மத்தியதர வர்க்கமான மக்கள் தான், மிடில் இன்கம் பீப்புள். அப்படியான ஒரு சூழ்நிலையிலே இந்த மக்களுடைய வாழ்வாதாரத்தை பெருக்குவதற்கு இந்த இயற்கை வளங்களை பயன்படுத்த வேண்டும். பழைய முறையில் அல்ல, புதிய முறையிலே அவர் ரீயூஸ்ட், ரீசைக்ளிங் என்ற அந்த வார்த்தைகளை பயன்படுத்தினார். மீள பயன்படுத்த வேண்டும். ஒரு ஃபோனை நாங்கள் பாவித்து விட்டு சும்மா எறிந்து விடக்கூடாது. அதே போன்று பிளாஸ்டிக் பொருட்களையும் நாங்கள் பாவித்து விட்டு எறிந்து விடுகின்ற சூழ்நிலை இல்லாமல் அவற்றை எப்படியாக மீள் சுழற்சி மூலம் அவற்றை மீளவும் பயன்படுத்த முடியும் என்பதை பற்றி நாங்கள் சிந்திக்க வேண்டும் என்று சொன்னார். இந்த விடயங்களிலே இலங்கையை முன்னுக்கு கொண்டு வருவதற்கு இலங்கை ஜனாதிபதி மிகவும் அக்கறையாக இருப்பதாகவும் சொன்னார். நிறைவாக அவர் ஆயர் ராயப்பு ஜோசப் ஆண்டவரை பற்றி சொல்லுகின்ற பொழுது அவர் எல்லோரையும் அன்பு செய்த ஒரு மனிதனாக இருந்தார். தமிழ் மக்களுக்காக மட்டும் அவருடைய குரல் ஒலிக்கவில்லை, எல்லா மக்களுக்காகவும் அவர் அந்த குரலை ஒலித்தார். குரலற்ற மக்களுடைய குரலாக அவர் ஒலித்தார் என்று சொல்லி சங்கப்புலவர் கணியன் பூங்குன்றனாருடைய அந்த வார்த்தைகளை சொல்லி முடித்தார். யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேளீர், யாதும் ஊரே, எல்லா ஊர்களும் என்னுடைய ஊர். கேளீர் என்று சொன்னால் உறவினர்கள், எல்லா மக்களும், உலகத்தில் இருக்கிற எல்லா மக்களும் என்னுடைய உறவினர்களே என்று சங்கப்புலவர் சொன்ன அந்த வார்த்தைகளின் அடிப்படையிலே ஆயருடைய சிந்தனையும் செயல்பாடுகளும் இருந்தது. அதே வழியிலே தான் நம்முடைய சிந்தனைகளும் செயல்பாடுகளும் இருக்க வேண்டும் என்று குறிப்பிட்டார். நன்றி.
Now it's time for questions and clarifications. May I kindly invite Very Reverend Father P. Christunayagam, our Vicar General, to coordinate this event. இப்போது கேள்விகள் கேட்டல் மற்றும் தெளிவுகள் பெறும் நேரம். இதை ஒருங்கிணைப்பு செய்யுமாறு எமது மறை மாவட்ட குரு முதல்வர் உயர் வணக்கத்துக்குரிய கிறிஸ்து நாயகம் அடிகளார் அவர்களை அன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
Translations. Now it's time for the questions and the clarifications. So the house is open. If anyone wants to ask a question or give contribution, you can do so. Yes, Father Anbu, can you come here?
Very much, sir, for your speech on climate change, as well as the contribution of our late Bishop Rayappu Joseph. My question is, do you think that the implementation of the 13th Amendment will solve the aspiration of the Tamils? Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
I think I shall be very, very cautious on giving some direction for these issues, which at the end can only be decided between the Tamil community of Sri Lanka and the main Sinhala leaders like the President and other leaders in Colombo. I mean, obviously, whatever solution is found in Sri Lanka will have the support of the international community, including me. I don't think there is anything like a solution which will make everyone happy and feel that everything is resolved. But I think it is possible to take a huge step forward, and I believe that there is now a willingness among key political actors, the President, when I spoke to Mahinda Rajapaksa, to Sachi Premadasa and others, all of them say that they are ready to find a solution based on the 13th Amendment. Whether all Tamils will be happy, I cannot tell, maybe not, but at least it will be a major step in a better direction towards self-rule for Tamils within Sri Lanka. But again, no one should sit outside Sri Lanka and decide this. Only Sri Lanka itself can find the solution.
Thank you.
There was a committee in the American Congress who made a resolution a few weeks ago about what should be the right timing for local elections in Sri Lanka. Look, what kind of arrogance is this? This is people who have never heard about Ranil Wickramasinghe, or for that matter of Mr. Prabhakaran. They have never heard of them. They have no idea where is Anuradhapura or Mannar, or for that matter Kandy or Tangol. They have no knowledge of Sri Lanka. But they have very, very strong opinions on what's the right solution for Sri Lanka. We cannot continue with that sort of arrogance, which is particularly in the West, because the Indians and the Chinese are not like that. They don't think they can find solutions for others. Only Sri Lanka can solve Sri Lankan problems, but when you find solutions, you can call upon us to support.
Thank you. Yes, Var.
First of all, on behalf of the Diocese of Jaffna, I pay my respect and homage to our late Bishop Rayappu Joseph on the second death anniversary today. And also thank you for the beautiful talk that you have presented today. Not only your talk, we had heard 5 beautiful talks today. The introductory talk by Father Krishnayagam, then the welcome speech by Father Victor Sose, and the 2 bishops, very beautifully they presented. And finally your talk, the second part mainly is on this ecology. The importance of the protection of the environment is very, very important. There is an accusation for Christianity. Christianity is one of the causes for this environmental crisis. Because of this, it's monotheistic trend. You can worship only God. You cannot worship any other thing. Now, there is no. If you worship a tree or if you worship an animal, it is considered a sin. So, but I think that is wrong, because in every creature, the presence of God is there. So, that Christianity is that monotheistic trend is also some environmental activists, they blame this monotheistic trend of Christianity for this. One of the reasons for this, I don't know, I don't totally agree with that. Anyway, but here you said about this usage of these modern things like windmills and solar energy. So when these things are introduced in Sri Lanka or in our areas, as you said, there are a lot of protests. People, I don't know, they are given wrong information, so I don't know. But some say that when the windmills are erected, the whole area will get dried and the coconut trees will not give fruits anymore. In the same way, when you have the solar panels erected, then that area is surrounded, those places, people will get sick and the animals will be affected. So this type of propaganda is made among the people. So the right education should be given to. So what is your opinion on that? Thank you.
These are two very interesting discussions. The first is whether Christianity, because in Christianity, of course, God puts humans above nature. At least that has been the normal interpretation. And that can be seen as a right for humans to do everything with animals and with nature. I think it's a wrong interpretation. I think it's also very interesting that if you look to the first Christians, their main symbols were from nature. The cross came quite after some hundreds of years as a main symbol of Christianity. The first Christians did not use the cross. They used the tree. I mean, look to how many times Jesus is speaking about the tree, and fish as the symbol. Of course, Jesus went around Lake Galilee in what's today Israel or Palestine, and he were with fishermen. So fish was a very, very strong symbol for them. And tree, which in the Bible means the fig tree, because that was the most important tree in the era. Those were the main Christian symbols in the early days, and of course there are symbols very much coming from nature. If you look to the sayings of Jesus Christ, you will also find any number of references to nature to describe his thinking. So I think, yes, as in any other major thought system, we'll find different tendencies, but it's time for Christianity to accept that man or humans is just one species which need to also behave to animals and to other parts of nature. Remember that in the past this may not have been a big problem, because, I mean, humans could destroy their own place, that's true. I mean, a bad farmer could destroy his farm. But no one could really have major impact on the planet or even on a nation. A farmer here in Mannar or a person could maybe make some havoc here, but he could have no impact on people in Hambantota or Batikaloa. But in the new world, we can impact each other in a completely new way. So there's need to see a wider perspective, and I'm sure the church will be able to do that. On the dialogue with people, I mean, most of these complaints against renewable energies are simply not true. Obviously, you can grow basically everything under windmills. I mean, windmills is making, turning wind around up there and not impacting upon anything downstairs. In India, they are now working very much with solar panels which can be put into the fields of farmers, because otherwise you need a lot of area for solar panels, which could easily be taken from farmers. But then you can put the solar panels into the farms, and they even claim that sometimes you get better yield under the windmill, under the solar panel, because it creates shadows. But all this needs to be a dialogue. I mean, look to what happened here in Sri Lanka, which was, in my view, an absolute catastrophe. And that was the president decided to get rid of fertilizer in one day. He was not wrong in trying to reduce the amount of fertilizer in Sri Lanka. In that way, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was right, but what was completely wrong was to turn it away in one day. How can any farmer adapt to that? In the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh, they also moved a lot of farmers out of fertilizer. But over a number of years, in a dialogue with the farmers, you see that it works in the other farmers' place. You are successful farmers, others will come to your place and see that it works. That's the only way. You need a dialogue with people and need to move with them, not just direct them. So on these matters, I think the dialogue between those companies who want to set up windmills and the government who want to encourage it with the local people is essential. And if I may add one thing at the point, some of the benefits of the renewable should be with the local people. If people think that we set up windmills and we set up solar panels and all the revenues go to Colombo, frankly, people will not be happy. It's exactly the same back in Norway. People don't want that. They want to see benefits for their community. In this case, for the community of Manar or Tala Manar. So look into what are the mechanisms where people in Tala Manar can also benefit from the revenues coming from the windmills. For instance, in better schools, or better roads, or better care for elderly people, or child care, or whatever is the demand of people in Tala Manar. People see benefits coming to the local community, they're much more likely to accept.
Thank you.
Happy to meet you for the second time, sir. I have met you already as the team leader for Forut in Jaffna, and happy that you are in Mana. I think I have two questions to you, not questions, just some kind of response so that we could live peacefully further. Yes, the Scandinavian countries were supporting us with the monitoring mission, and that was a blessing in disguise at a time that our people felt nowhere to go and where to complain or who is our refuge. So I am very thankful for that, and I gave my house also to house the monitoring mission in Mana. But my question is, you are part and parcel of the peace talks, and anyway, everything ended up in chaos later. We had to face the music at our end. It's already done. I hear that the Norwegian embassy is no more working in Sri Lanka, because the Forut colleagues recently told me that. So what is the role Norway is playing in at least bringing about the 13th Amendment to work? Mr. Rajapaksa has already talked about 13 plus, let it be, but at least to bring some kind of amicable solution to live as peaceful and respected citizens. What is the role of Norway? Since you are here with the Honorable President, Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe. My second one is about the environment and the windmill. Even we have sand mining here for ilmenite. People should be put first. Yes, we all have to live in harmony together with the environment, the animals, plants, everything else. But people should be given priority. And putting windmills in wrong locations. It's not that we are against development and against windmill, but they have been placed. It's a 4 by 28 breadth and length Manar Island. So putting windmills in the wrong places is really affecting us. We had floods, we had less fishing. So I'm just asking you, what could be the solution? In time to come, there are going to be many more windmills to be erected very soon, the wind turbine. So what could be? You said we need to come into discussion. So how could we solve that? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. These are two very, very good questions. On the closing down of the Norwegian embassy in Colombo, I can only regret it. It's the wrong decision. I have told the Foreign Minister of Norway that this is the wrong thing to do, but I cannot decide. She has made this decision, and it's completely wrong. Norway has no formal role in any main process in Sri Lanka, but of course Norwegian companies may be ready to invest. I am supporting the President in my personal capacity, and there are a number of other contacts, but we have no formal role, and the Foreign Minister has made this wrong political decision. On windmills, I can only recommend that take a scientific approach, try to bring in scientists who can judge on whether these complications are real or not, because there are lots of complaints against windmills which are not real, but some may also be real, and then you should bring in people who can do that. Also be aware that the new generation, I saw the windmills which are there now, the new generation of windmills are much, much, much bigger. The last windmill which was made in China is 150 meters tall. That is like a house with 60 floors. There's no house in Sri Lanka with 60 floors, as far as I'm aware of. You have to go to China or the United States basically to find houses of 60 floors. So these are enormous. The benefit of that is that you need much fewer. Only a few, one turnaround of one of these big windmills will power one normal family in the world for 1 week, just going around one time. So these are enormous powers, but they are much, much fewer. I think that most environment concerns with windmills are deeply exaggerated, but you need to speak to people and you need to find a way of seeing, for instance, if shall be windmills at sea here, which is an enormous opportunity for Sri Lanka, exactly what are the right positions. Position matters a lot for birds and for many other. Some places you put up, there will be no impact on birds, and some others there will be more. But this only scientists can judge. But we see enormous amount of windmills now coming up all over the world, and quite a few of them are at sea, offshore windmills. And of course, the shelf between India and Sri Lanka is very, very shallow. So in that sense, it's very, very, very well suited for offshore windmills.
I'm Sabruddin. So I was one of the members in the Sri Lanka military mission. So 20 years ago, so we have associated with Professor Hasbullah. It is a rather political question. I don't want to put you embarrassing position, but the answer may be unanswerable question, but must be answered. Because in my experience, I have associated with the association for last 5.5 years. But ultimately, in 2009, almost, you must have, I don't want to elaborate the stories, so almost all the world had given the protection of the Tamil community when there was a war had happened that day. So thereafter, when Mahinda Rajapaksa took over the power, after winning, he must have addressed the question of problem for which for last 30 years this war was going on. Without addressing, he told that the Tamils have only the economic problem. Povertiness must be elevated. Those are the thinking which had failed. Now we are thinking that even in the politics scenario, the majoritarian rule, that is very dangerous. That had been proved by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa by not getting the minorities votes. By getting 69 lakhs of votes, he had become the president. At the time they thought that without giving any right to the minorities, the country could have been brought to the other end, which failed. Now, even present president, Ranil Wickremesinghe told in Parliament, saying that he wanted to fully implement the 13th Amendment. So before he addressed to the Parliament, entire monks from the Buddhist community march against Ranil as well as the government. So utter one word that had not been used in the speech by our president in the Parliament about 13th Amendment. So world, most of the geopolitics in the world having economic benefits for their nations will be given much priority than the minority community. They are not much bothered about that. So as a well-experienced person, so you are the survivor of this nation. At the time we thought that immediately after the ceasefire entered into the country, how we felt the freedom which we had been enjoyed by our people. So without any hurdle, we will be able to travel everywhere. We enjoyed well. So failure on that part, what type of action you had been trying to take, which was failed. So after 20 years, you come to say us 13th Amendment will be implemented. So which will be giving us even that 13th Amendment will not be accepted by the majority of the people. The mindset of the single masses must be changed. So do you believe that in future the minority communities' rights will be given and this country ethnic problem will be solved in amicably acceptable to the entire people of this country? Especially our country is multicultural, multi-ethnic, multilingual nation. Recently, I openly said that Vimal Veeravansa said in the Parliament, saying that this is the single nation. We have no right. So how you are going to help to us to solve this problem?
Throughout all these years of war and problems in Sri Lanka, I always heard someone saying that the international community should come and solve Sri Lanka's problem. It didn't happen, it doesn't happen, it will not happen. Because if you look to the major power of the world, I mean the United States or China or India, whatever, they have their own problems which they focus on. And they will not focus on solving Sri Lanka's problem. Only Sri Lanka can solve them. So the only way of solving the problems is a dialogue between Tamils and Sinhalese and of course Muslims in Sri Lanka itself. Yes, I believe that there is a good chance to get the 13th Amendment implemented now, because the economic crisis has told a lesson to maybe particularly Sinhala people that there is one nation which are always suffering. So I think there is more acceptance than there was in the past. But I think Sri Lanka should grab this opportunity. It will not solve all problems for all future, but it will be a major step forward if the 13th Amendment is now implemented, as so many top leaders of Sri Lanka, as you say, have declared that they are ready to do. So grab the opportunity. I would love a situation where foreigners could resolve problems, but it never happens.
Mr. Eric Solheim said that the president wants to see the Sri Lanka as a peaceful country. So my question is, if he wants to see Sri Lanka, why are the protesters in the south being arrested, imprisoned, Sri Lanka as a peaceful country? Why are the peaceful protesters in the south being arrested, detained, and attacked with the tear gas? That's one question. And also, why are the Sinhalese are being colonized in the Tamil areas? that will not help to have a peaceful coordination. Then the second question is, you said that the disappeared cases, the disappeared, the people, the case that is the burning issue in the north and east. I know the present president once said there are no disappeared persons, they have all gone abroad, he said. So the people asked, if they have gone abroad, let us know where they are, we will go and see. So this is another problem in the north and east, that the disappeared cases must take into account, and the problem must be solved. The third question is, you said Sri Lanka is a peaceful country. Sri Lanka is a beautiful country, and the natural resources are there, and we must develop the natural resources. As for me, the present situation does not permit, because the coastal areas, the farming areas, all are occupied by the forces, and people are not allowed to do their economy freely. And so they must be removed. Even I know in one place in Mana, Navy is running the nursery schools. So the militarization must be stopped, and they must be, the people must be free to develop the country and to use the natural resources and to build their economy. Thank you.
You bring up a huge variety of different issues, which, of course, you know better than me, but I can comment upon a few of them. If you ask my personal opinion, I think it was very essential that the president re-established law and order in Sri Lanka. Because unless there is law and order, you cannot solve any other problem. And look, while many or nearly all protesters were peaceful, there were also protesters burning down about 40 to 50 properties in Sri Lanka, which is a great harm, not just to the individuals, but to the economy of Sri Lanka. And there was a need to establish a system of law and order. And in that he has been very successful. Since then, there's been no major demonstrations in Sri Lanka, which I think for most Sri Lankans is good, because now we can look ahead to solve problems in the future. There is an American author who was first a very, very strong supporter of the war in Iraq, until he understood that he had got everything wrong. And he just wrote a book where he said that the worst of all is anarchy. 1 year of anarchy is worse than 100 years of bad rule. So let's not celebrate anarchy. There was enormously positive, peaceful demonstrations in Sri Lanka, which turned around the political system, but there was also the need to create law and order, and particularly Westerners don't understand that. Secondly, land which has been taken by Singala and from Tamils, of course, should be given back to the lawful owners. On disappeared, look, I know quite a few people who feel or who have experienced that their loved ones disappeared. That's now 14 years ago, so we can take it for granted that they're all dead. There are no disappeared who are in any camps or are hidden somewhere. Those who disappeared are dead. But it may be of great importance for people to understand where and under what circumstances they died. Say you are a woman, you lost your husband. It's very hard to remarry if you wish to, if you don't know what happened to your husband. You may think that one day, all of a sudden, he may reappear. Of course, he will not, because he's dead, but still that feeling may be there. So there is a very, very strong desire for people to come to know what happened to their loved ones. And for that to happen, there must be a process. I mean, the foreign minister was just in South Africa, spoke to the South Africans on a piece on their Truth and Reconciliation Commission. There must be a process where you get knowledge. And also, like it or not, but a lot of this knowledge are only with Sinhalese. Because when Tamils were killed, only Sinhalese were around. We do not know what happened to Mr. Prabhakaran and his family. We know they are dead, but we do not know exactly what happened. But of course, someone were there and would have seen it. But for the Singala soldiers who saw what happened to come forward and bear witness, there must be a process which everyone feels is good. And if such a process happens, people can get the knowledge which they so much desire. And we should respect this desire to get knowledge, but knowledge can only happen when people feel comfortable to speak.
It's more. So I will wind up with this. Your Excellency, thank you very much for your answers. And I would like to say one sentence from all the questions. I think more than 10 questions raised from our audience, and all of them are well educated, and the lawyers, fathers, sisters, and everybody. You can understand the pulse of the Tamils. No, even the war was over in 2009. But now we don't have war, but we don't have peace also. So absence of war does not mean there's peace. So that is the pulse of the people. From all the questions you can understand, still we raise the same question when we will get the real peace. So you are very closely connected with Sri Lankan government, and especially we all knew very well that we are very closely connected with the present President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Try to bring about the real peace, what we expect from the government. With that, I conclude now. Father Suresh will say a few words.
We are very much pleased and happy to have His Excellency Honorable Mr. Eric Solheim, the International Climate Advisor to the President of Sri Lanka, for delivering the memorial talk today. To mark this event, the Diocese of Mana is gratefully presenting a memento. Now, I kindly invite His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, the Bishop of Mana, to present the memento to our honorable guest speaker as a token of our appreciation. நினைவு
So thank you. Excellent.
I kindly invite Reverend Father Jnana Pragasam, the parish priest of Pesalai, and the president of the Mana Citizens Committee to propose the vote of thanks.
On behalf of our Diocese of Mana, I stand here to take a moment to thank and express our gratitude to all of you who gathered here on this occasion of our beloved late second Bishop, Right Reverend Dr. Rayappu Joseph, second death anniversary commemoration. Right Reverend Dr. Bishop of Mana, Right Reverend Dr. Bishop of Trinco, Honorable Excellency, International Environment, Climate Change Advisors and the Special Advisor to the President of Sri Lanka, and Very Reverend Fathers, Vicar Generals of Jaffna and Mana, the special invited dignitaries, religious dignitaries, the special invited dignified guests, Honorable District Government Agent and Honorable Tamil Parliamentarians, Divisional Secretary, Parish Pastoral Council Secretaries from other different departments, heads and government local authorities, dear Reverend Fathers, Sisters and Brothers, and my dear friends. In seriousness of all, we would like to thank the Honorable Excellency for accepting our invitation amidst of his heavy schedules, for having come enthusiastically to this special event and delivered a impactful speech which is very unique and had all the elements and still be interesting. Dear Honorable Excellency, it's difficult for us to express our gratitude in words. Nevertheless, the highest performing people who feel valued by giving thanks. So by giving thanks with our leadership, we can both feel more fulfilled as leaders and inspire better for future. Furthermore, you have honored our great spiritual and political leader, late Bishop of Mana, Right Reverend Dr. Rayappu Joseph, by giving your time with devoted attention on this day of his second year death anniversary, by giving memorial talk in order to honor Bishop's devoted services to the Tamil people. We always remember Bishop late Right Reverend Dr. Rayappu Joseph and his commitment, hard work, love for the Tamil people and his trustworthy services. He could be able to do it so because of the eminent personalities like you, His Excellency. We thank you for your wonderful assistance given to our bishop during the war time and still in our freedom struggle. As you are fully aware, our freedom struggle continues in different forms and features. So at this juncture, we would like to appeal to you to get continuous, profound support and trust to realize our dream that the Tamils from north and east may enjoy their rights, peace, dignity, and harmony in the days to come. With so much of passion and zeal, we submit our request to you. If this is realized, then you owe majority of the success of this event. Wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it. You proved to be both wise and virtuous. Thank you for your services to the Tamils and your skill in handling issues appreciated on both a professional and a personal level. We are grateful for the time you spent together with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear Excellency. We also would like to express our thanks to all the bishops present here on this occasion. That gives us a source of courage to all of us and to the Diocese of Mana. Thank you, His Excellency Bishop of Mana. Thank you, His Excellency Bishop of Trincomalee. Thank you, Very Reverend Father, Vicar General, Diocese of Jaffna. With an attitude of gratitude, we remember your mission works and services to the Tamil people in North and East. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which brings from the soul. We also thank our Honorable District Government Agent, Honorable our Tamil parliamentarians, Divisional Secretary, religious dignitaries, dignified guests, heads and local government authorities, parish pastoral council secretaries, and dear fathers, sisters and brothers and all our friends. I can't close this event without thanking Mr. Joseph, the consultant of this event, and the organizing diocesan committee along with the VG for having made all the possible arrangement of this event. The children with their dance who have entertained us, the media people for covering the entire event, and all the visitors here who have shared our vision today. On this note, I close my word of thanks to everybody once again for your sincere efforts. Thank you and may God bless you.
Let us all stand, please. தயவு செய்து அனைவரும் எழுந்து நிற்போம். Now, may I kindly invite His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Emmanuel Fernando, to give the final blessing. எமது மறைமாவட்ட ஆயர் தந்தை அவர்களை இறுதி ஆசீர் வழங்குமாறு பணிவன்போடு அழைத்து நிற்கின்றோம்.
ஆண்டவர் உங்களோடு இருப்பாராக. எல்லாம் வல்ல இறைவன் தந்தை, மகன், தூயாவி உங்கள் அனைவரையும் ஆசீர்வதிப்பாராக.